Hey, this is Tom Glavine, and you're listening to Out of Left Field on The Grueling Truth.
Hey guys, welcome back to Out of Left Field. Been a bit of a gap since we last talked to you, about a month. I know Mike Goodpasser put up our interview with Adnan Virk within the last week or so. We did that just a week or so before Christmas, and wanted to give a little bit of buffer so that you guys could have something from us. But we wanted to enjoy our Christmas and New Year's. We hope that you all did as well and stayed safe. It was enjoyable for everybody concerned. We hope for, but we're back and ready to talk some baseball. And while there isn't a ton of baseball to talk about at the moment, Chris, obviously we're going to get in full-fledged into the NFL playoffs, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here, at least with what's going on this week with Out of Left Field and the golf tournament again that we're going to be at. But let's put the ball in play, and at least let's start off with the important thing first. There's 38 days until the beginning of spring training. That's all I really care about. 38 days until we finally see some semblance of professional baseball. It's a starting point, and we'll move forward.
It's something to hold on to. It's something to
Right.
keep you getting up in the morning.
Exactly. Yep. And that's, if I had to pick work or baseball, that's pretty much what keeps me up in the morning is baseball. I have to agree. But
Work is
once
what keeps me
again
up at night.
Yeah, but all joking aside, what we're kind of getting back into is when we last talked, obviously with Adnan, we talked about the Stanton move, the Aaron Boone signing, all that kind of stuff, and we had a little bit of of humor and enjoyment in there as well. But you and I both thought, albeit I think maybe a little bit, I think our train of thought was right, but what we expected to happen has not come to fruition. Is we both thought that once Stanton got moved, that was what was going to kind of go ahead and begin to beget the whole free agent process. And really, we haven't seen much of anything. Carlos Santana, probably the biggest name I think that has been moved, and that was really relatively recent, and he went from the Indians to the Phillies on a 3-year, $60 million deal. But, Wade Davis went to the Rockies. Zach Cozart, the shortstop from Cincinnati, to the Angels. He's 32. Really the youngest guy to be moved or to at least be signed, and he did move, was Tyler Chatwood, 28-year-old pitcher from the Rockies to the Cubs. That one, I think, is going to be a relatively big deal because of how young that Rockies rotation is. And that's something that we'll talk about as we begin to break our teams down leading up to the beginning of the season. But, man, really nobody that we thought was going to be, moved or at least have signed in Hosmer, Cain, all these different guys. Nothing's happened yet. Eric Hosmer has been rumored to have multiple 7-year offers in the neighborhood of $150 million, but still hasn't signed. We heard the Padres and the Royals were kind of going neck and neck. We're almost 30 days, a month out from spring training, and there is a litany of guys who have still yet to even, make a move to where they're going to be for the next 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, exactly. And the names on this free agency list, the names on the list of players who are still free agents are almost a who's who of baseball, talking about guys like Curtis Granderson, Jake Arrieta, even, Jason Gonzalez, who, as you told me before the show, I didn't know this, but as you told me before the show, was part of that deal to Atlanta.
You mean Adrian? Okay, you mean Adrian Gonzalez?
I said Adrian Gonzalez.
I said, okay, I thought you said Jason.
No. But he was part of that deal to Atlanta for Matt Kemp, and then Atlanta took him in that trade and then said, all right, Adrian, bye. And they cut him. And so now suddenly he's a free agent. Andre Ethier is a free agent. Guys who you and I both think need to retire, like John Lackey is a free agent. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make light of the fact that John Lackey's a free agent still, but maybe time for him to hang up the cleats. But this list of people who are still out there on the market is a who's who of baseball at this point. And for some of these guys to not have been signed by now, Jay Bruce, Lorenzo Cain, Eric Hosmer, Yu Darvish even, is sort of surprising. Lance Lynn, you're going to tell me that there's no team in Major League Baseball right now who needs a Lance Lynn in their rotation?
Right.
I would tell you that, I would tell you that you're wrong. I would tell you that there are probably 7 or 8 teams right now who are looking at guys like Lance Lynn.
I think one of those teams plays on the West Coast, don't they?
Look, we're not going to talk about any teams on the West Coast right now, especially not any teams in that Bay Area. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the A's could use a Lance Lynn.
Not what you've been saying this entire week. We've been prepping for the show, but okay, that works.
But it's interesting to me because I thought, just like you thought, that Giancarlo Stanton was going to be the push. And so now it looks like Eric Hosmer might be the push. At some point, a domino is going to fall, and it's going to hit another domino, and we're going to have an effect. And these guys are going to start getting snatched up left and right. There's no way that by the time pitchers and catchers report in how many days again?
38.
38 days. That guys like J.D. Martinez and Lorenzo Cain and Jay Bruce and Yu Darvish and Jake Arrieta don't have contracts. But
no, I
something has to happen in the next week or two.
But the question I have for you is, do you think Hosmer is going to be that piece? Do you think it is Hosmer, or is it someone like...
I think it's either going to be Hosmer going somewhere else, not staying with the Royals, or it's going to be Jake Arrieta going somewhere else and not staying with the Cubs. That's really going to start to knock these pieces into place. Because Eric Hosmer fills a huge hole probably on every team that's offered him money. I don't know that Eric Hosmer is going to want it. Would you want to go to San Diego? I mean, if you were Eric Hosmer, would you want to go to San Diego?
Well, I mean, unless it's for family reasons. I mean, no, because we've already seen San Diego try and, do. We have seen them try and do something similar to this before, and that was 4 or 5 years ago when they had, Matt Kemp. They signed, I think it was Craig Kimbrell. I mean the Upton brothers. I mean, they had a ton of big pieces, for whatever. I mean, Hosmer's from South Miami. So I get the Padres can offer him a lot of money, but to me, the way I see it, I don't think either team right now really has a leg to stand on between the Royals or the Padres for really long-term success right now.
No.
I mean... Because the Royals window
is
closed.
Window is obviously closed.
Moustakas is a free agent. Cain is a free agent. We're talking about Hosmer right now. I mean, those are 3 of the big guys, along with obviously, Salvi, who's there. That pitching rotation has died down. You've lost a lot of the back end of that bullpen that made you so great to win that World Series and go to back-to-back World Series. Gerard Dyson, some of the speed is gone. I just, this surprises me that the Padres and I get the Royals probably going to offer a little bit more money, but it surprises me that the Padres came out as one of the leading candidates for Eric Hosmer's talent.
Well, and it surprises me as well. I don't think that the Padres are really in a position to make a push for any sort of contention in that National League West division. I mean, after the year we saw out of the Dodgers last year, the moves that San Francisco's making now, the year that we saw out of the Diamondbacks last year, the Padres just get lost in that West. The Rockies are strong, the Diamondbacks are strong, the Dodgers are strong. The Giants are making moves again.
Yeah. I think right now, and obviously this will kind of play into a lot of our talk the next couple of weeks or probably next month and a half or so as we start to break down kind of division by division and team by team. But I think the question you have to look at when it comes to where Hosmer wants to go is really did what the Rockies and the Diamondbacks do this past year, is it something that we think can be repeated in the way that it was, where basically those two teams plus the Dodgers kind of ran away with the West and the two wild card spots and kind of hid from everybody. I think the Chatwood deal changes things a little bit for Colorado. I think losing that, but I don't know you don't know if JD Martinez is coming back. There's been talk about letting Zach Greinke go or trading him to there was talk about Texas. I don't know if those two teams repeat with the same tenacity and strength they did this year, and maybe he sees the Padres as a way to kind of go in there and make a push behind the Dodgers and kind of move the Giants out of the way and take a number 2 and maybe push the Dodgers out of the way eventually.
The Diamondbacks have one thing definitely going for them, and that is both on the field and financially. And that is that on the field, they're no longer going to be turning to Fernando Rodney to close out games.
Right.
And financially, they're no longer going to have to pay for that very expensive Fernando Rodney entrance music and video that they play every time he comes out into the ballpark. So they have those two things going for them. But in all seriousness, yes,
I think getting rid of Rodney
it's not going to be what it was last year. Those two teams aren't going to run away with the wild card spots, but I don't think that the Dodgers are going to run away with the West like they did last year either. I think that the end of the season and the postseason exposed a few holes in the Dodgers game, a few weaknesses in that lineup, a few weaknesses in that rotation especially, and that there's going to be a lot of makeup in that from other teams. Teams are going to start understanding that team and knowing how to beat them. I think that the Dodgers are still going to win that division handily, probably by 5 or 6 games, but not by 20. And I think that the Diamondbacks and the Rockies are both going to contend for wild card spots, and they may even contend for that division. But I don't think that they're going to run away with it like they did last year.
I wouldn't go division contention. I mean, yeah, we'll see ebbs and flows, but I think the Dodgers are still going to kind of need to have that clear cut, 2 or 3. Alex Wood to me proved in the World Series that he's a clear cut number 2. Even Darvish, like we said, he was being used as a number 3 guy, and we'll talk about him. I mean, he's like you said, he's still sitting in free agency, and I am legitimately concerned as to how well he is going to play this year, how he's going to pitch after the epic meltdown that occurred with him in the World Series. He's notorious for being hard on himself.
I'm interested in how he's going to pitch. I'm interested in how he's going to pitch, but right now I'm more interested in where the heck he's going to pitch because
I agree.
The Dodgers haven't shown a whole lot of interest in bringing him back. And
I don't think they have interest in bringing him back, honestly. I think that, it's one of those things where, you're expecting guys like Maeda to come back, Hyunjin Ryu to come back. You've got things in there that you can use at least for a 1 through 4 kind of rotation. Figure out who your 5th is going to be. I don't think there's a push for them to bring him back. I really don't.
Right, and that's where the concern comes in for Yu Darvish, because if the Dodgers don't want to bring Yu Darvish back after the epic sort of blow up he had, I don't know if there's enough upside to Yu Darvish in the eyes of other general managers around the league right now on any team in contention. I will caveat it with that. I don't know if there's enough upside in Yu Darvish for any team in contention that he goes somewhere where his arm or his play makes a difference. So, yeah, it's important how he pitches next year, but it's more important where he pitches, because if he ends up in, Kansas City, it doesn't matter. If he ends up in
New York,
on the New York Mets, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, we saw that in Texas, with the way that the Rangers had played, and he still stayed as a top pitcher. I disagree in the fact that I do believe that if you are a team in contention, you're going to want him. I mean, he is still it's kind of the same idea as not wanting Clayton Kershaw because he struggles in the postseason. Now, he hasn't had the meltdowns the way that Yu Darvish did, but Darvish pitched very well this past year. What you have to hope for then, if you are a general manager or the skipper of a team, is that when you sign Yu Darvish, is that at least, okay, please God tell me that he's got, that he's kind of gotten the bugs worked out and he's not still having his freak out over what happened, and we can kind of put him into the postseason and the World Series and he can pitch the way that we know he can pitch. That's what I think ends up being kind of your biggest concern if you are a manager.
I mean, I agree, but the question mark on his ability isn't in the hands of the managers right now. It's not in the hands of the team manager. It's in the hands of the general manager. And the general manager has two questions. How much money does he want? And how many wins does that equate to? And if there's a huge question mark in that category, that wins category, and the amount of money that Yu Darvish is going to command because of the amount of money that Yu Darvish has made over the course of his career, the type of player that he was, then he's either going to sign with a team that's in contention for less money, or he's going to sign with a team that doesn't matter for the same or more money than he's making now. I don't think a general manager on a team in contention is going to pay him a huge contract with that big question mark hanging over.
I get what you're saying. I understand the perception as, coming at it from a GM's point of, okay, look, we have seen this kind of epic struggle and we've seen what came out of it. But at the end of the day, you're talking about wins. You need to have enough wins to even make it into postseason contention for this to even be a factor. So at this point, that to me is where I think
if he blew up like this in the postseason, there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to come back from that next year. Look at guys like Tim Lincecum, who had epic drop-offs. We're talking about guys who won back-to-back Cy Youngs, won a World Series, and fell off the table.
Yes, but right now we're talking about this in Yu Darvish in the way of it being more of a mental thing than a physical thing. The question is can Yu Darvish mentally, is he mentally strong enough to get past what happened and come back next year, pitch productively in the way that we've seen him pitch on a consistent basis this year and into the postseason? And I think the answer is yes. The World Series will make you concerned. Yeah, if we get there, what's going to happen? But the way that he pitched overall in the postseason wasn't awful. It was the World Series, the big stage, where it had to make you concerned. But at the end of the day, you always have to say, that past performance isn't an indicator of future performance. But if that's the case, his past performance overall has been pretty damn good. So are we going to go ahead and take one snippet of 2 games in the World Series and say, you know what, great job, but in this case, you didn't do well in 2 games. We're going to give you a smaller contract because of that little sample size? No, I don't think that's the way it's going to go. He's going to get paid, and then the question will be, can he go ahead and mentally overcome what happened and make himself the same pitcher in the World Series and deep into the postseason that he has always been? Obviously ebb and flow, but for better or worse, that he has been in the regular season.
I disagree, because it's not just about the World Series. It's not just about the production in the World Series. Did he pitch well? Sure. He pitched okay this year. He went 4-3 with the Dodgers in 9 starts. He had 4 wins in 9 starts. That's cool. 2 no decisions. Not bad. He had 3.44 ERA. He gave up 7 home runs in those 9 starts. He had a strikeout to walk ratio of 4.69. You have to understand that he's been getting his ERA has been climbing and climbing and climbing.
I understand.
He didn't pitch well last year at all. He wasn't pitching well in Texas at all. His strikeouts per 9 in Texas were the lowest they've been in his entire career. His strikeouts per 9 in Texas were 9.7, the lowest they've ever been. In 22 starts, he had 6 wins in Texas, lowest he's ever been in his career. And so when you look at 2017 as a whole, he ends with a 3.86 ERA and 10 wins, 6 of which he got in Texas, in 31 starts. This is not a guy whose ERA has crept up from 2.83 to 3.06 to 3.41 to now 3.86. This is not a guy who, if there is a question mark as to whether or not he is going to come back from the abysmal performance that he gave you at the end of last season when it mattered the most, that you hang your hat on with that kind of question mark. You do not give this guy a $12, $13, $15 million contract when he's making 11 with that kind of question mark and that kind of decline in performance over the last 3 years. You don't.
As a GM,
but that's what I'm saying. Right now, GMs are making these decisions. These are not. I don't give a crap if you would put him in a game or not, or if you would start him or not as a manager.
Nice job.
That's a different conversation. Whether or not he plays is a different conversation. It's whether or not he gets signed, and the GMs are making that decision. And he's 31 years old.
Yeah, at
this
31
is about
years
the time,
old, and you've been pitching for 5 years, he will get that contract.
You've been pitching for 5 years here. He's been pitching for 5 years here.
Okay. So let's go here. So then let's look at the top free agent pitchers starting wise that we're looking at right now. So tell me this then: would you rather have? Who'd you rather have? Who would you give the money to? You'd rather have Arrieta. You would rather have Jake Arrieta than you, Darvish.
You think Jake Arrieta is gonna? You think Jake Arrieta has an opportunity to make a comeback from what he did last year?
I
think he has the mental toughness?
I think you've seen a bigger drop off from Arrieta than you have from you, Darvish, in the last 2 years.
My question is, do you think Arrieta has an opportunity to make a comeback from what he did last year?
I think both of them do. Yeah, sure, both of them do. But you're not going to get the same Jake Arrieta, the 1.77 ERA from 2015. About creeping up. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has had 2 seasons rather, below a 3 ERA. That was 14 and 15. Everything else has been 3 or higher.
Never, ever in his career, never in his career, either before or after, has he been below 3. Even in his early years in Baltimore, he was in 4s and 5s and 6s. He had a 7 ERA in 2013 in Baltimore. In 2013 in Chicago, he had a 3.66. He got into a groove in Chicago, but he hasn't crept back up. He still is putting up double-digit wins. And when I say double-digit wins, I mean in the teens, not exactly double digits, 10 wins.
That's fine,
but putting up double-digit wins.
Okay, but at the end of the day,
his ERA is still lower than
you still look at
and they're exactly the same age.
The team behind him. You still look at the team behind him. You Darvish had what behind him in Texas? Whoa. Let's not talk about Texas. Hold on now. Because you Darvish had an opportunity to win 9 games in Los Angeles with a Los Angeles team that won over 100 games last year. So if you want to talk about looking at the team that's behind him, look at the team that was behind you, Darvish. And you and I can both say, because we watched a game with him, that there were times last year where his pitches, his slider was not on. He was not consistent. He was not putting the ball where he wanted to put it, and that was causing him to get knocked around the yard and knocked out early. But so is Jake Arrieta.
I understand that.
But my point is that you have – you're making –
what I'm asking you is,
you're making one argument for one guy, not the same for the other.
More upside. You think you Darvish has more upside than Jake Arrieta?
Yes.
They're exactly the same age.
Yes. Yes, I do. Because Darvish has at least been an ERA of between 2 and 3.5. Granted, yeah, you had the 1 year, you have not had an ERA with Darvish over 4. Granted, his first year was 3.9, but Jake Arrieta on a relatively consistent basis has been in the upper 3s, 4s, and above. And yes, I see Jake Arrieta slipping back into that more than I see Darvish staying in the rut that happened at the end of this year. Yes, I see more upside in
It's not the end of this year. It's this whole year. Darvish, his first 22 games of this season, his first 22 starts of this season, which you and I could both consider the majority of his season, obviously. He started 22 games in Texas at a 4.01 ERA, 6 wins in 22 starts. You're going to tell me that's not more of a drop-off than going from 18 wins to 14 wins and a 3.10 to a 3.53?
No. What my point is that what I have seen from Jake Arrieta from start to now is worse than what I have seen from Darvish from start to now. And I trust that Darvish can get back into what we have seen more consistent than what we'll see from Jake Arrieta.
Darvish has been in the league for 2 years fewer than two fewer years than Jake Arrieta. Now you're going to hold Jake Arrieta's first 2 seasons against him as a kid. I mean,
so what? So
nobody's
nobody's
first 2 seasons are phenomenal.
No, that's fine. I have seen more drop off from Arrieta in a longer term lack of what I think is going to be overall production than I have from Darvish. I'm giving you my answer. Yes, I would take Darvish over Arrieta, and you would go the opposite way, and that's fine.
Madison Bumgarner. Would you agree that Madison Bumgarner is one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball right now?
Yes.
He didn't have a season below a 3 ERA until 2013.
Okay,
his fourth year in the league.
Is that really what you want to hang your argument on? Is that Jake Arrieta's first 2 years? Hey, he was just young and he was just bad, and that's okay. Get over it.
My point is, you're talking about these 2 years when he had 5 and 6 ERAs when he's a rookie on a terrible team. He's a rookie on an absolutely terrible team, by the way, in the Baltimore Orioles in 2010.
So you're picking.
What about Clayton Kershaw?
Okay,
his first year in the league, he had a 4.26 ERA.
No, hold on.
Are we going to condemn Clayton Kershaw for his rookie year?
So you're saying that so in 2010 his rookie year 4.66. Okay, rookie year. Then a 5.05 his second year. Then a 6.2 his third year. Then a 4.78 his fourth year. So you're saying that the consistent rise in years 3 and 4, that's okay. We're just not going to look at those years. We're going to look at the first 2. No. I get what you're trying to say, but your argument has holes in it, man. Period. It does.
And so does yours.
But that's fine.
Because in 2013, he only pitched in 5 games. He pitched in 5 games. That's not a sample size.
He pitched in 14. Hoss. He pitched in 14.
In 2013?
Yeah, pitched in 5 in Baltimore, then 5 in Baltimore,
right?
Then 9 in Chicago.
I'm talking about with Baltimore, when he had a 7.23 ERA in Baltimore.
Okay, but
then
he
pitched 5 games with Baltimore. I get it.
Yeah,
but in Chicago, his ERA was under 4, well under 4.
Right, and he had a 4.70 ERA for the year. I mean,
yeah, because he had the high ERA in Baltimore, but he only pitched 5 games with that. You have to look at the split.
And that's fine. But we're looking at those. My point is that your argument can be one thing, and this is not going to be a perfect argument. We're not going to go ahead. This isn't being presented to a jury of our peers for judgment. You think that you're on this, and you asked who I would take. I would take Darvish.
What I'm saying is that his performance last season, in which he had a 3.53 ERA and won 14 games, has been consistent with his performance since he came to Chicago in 2013. And it has. It's been consistent with his performance with the exception of 2 standout years. It's been consistent with his performance since he came to Chicago in 2013. Now, Darvish has not had a consistent performance. Not with Texas. His ERA has steadily increased and is steadily increasing.
Yep. And we also know that there have been injury concerns with him. And I get that injury concerns are part of that. But I am telling you right now from the things that I watched, from the way that I saw things, yes, if I had to choose, okay, at the end of it, with your argument and whatever else, and you can keep going until you're blue in the face. We've been on this talk long enough. I would take Darvish. Still take Arrieta. We can come back to it at the end of the year and see who was right. But we can at least move on at this point to things that are happier to talk about. Well, not happier to talk about, but need to be discussed.
Do they though?
I mean, we can lightly glean over them if you prefer. That's fine.
To be honest with you, I'd probably prefer to lightly glean over. It's not something that I take any joy in discussing. It's not something that I really want to use this platform.
I'll
get on my soapbox about.
As bad as the story is, at least if
can we both agree, at least to end this segment, can we both agree that neither of us would sign R.A. Dickey over either Darvish or Jake Arrieta?
Whoa. Yeah, I'll agree to that.
But Lance Lynn, though, right?
He's had a bigger drop off the last couple of years than both Arrieta. I would sign Arrieta or Darvish over Lynn. Jeremy Hellickson is probably the kind of the one sitting there that you makes you wonder. Yeah, well, what would you do? Lance, Hellickson has kind of been. He was decent in Tampa. He pitched. He was. It's Philly. You're not going to hear much from Philly because they're awful. But he has made a decent name for himself. Moving on after an argument in which I'm not even going to say you're wrong. I think that we both make points that both are valid, and it's one of those that it'll come down to this year, seeing where it goes, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I think it's a good thing. To lightly glean over this, we don't want to get too much into it. If there is I don't want to say a silver lining. It sounds like I'm saying it's okay. A photographer, and I want to make sure that I'm tracking this. A photographer has accused Minnesota Twins third baseman Miguel Sano of assault. To basically that she says, and I'm not trying to take away from the story. We don't want to get too deep into it. But basically that he kept flirting with her and grabbed her wrist and made her go with him to an Apple store. She wanted things to stop. She said no. He tried to kiss her. She was not sexually assaulted, which is a good thing, but the fact that he didn't...
She was sexually assaulted. She was not raped.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. Well, she was assaulted. She felt that she was assaulted.
She was sexually assaulted. Him trying to force himself on her by kissing her without her permission after she said no is sexual assault. She was not raped.
Her quote was, "No, he didn't rape me, but he sure did assault me." That's where I was taking. I was taking it from that line. So yes,
right.
Her thing is, when I said no, it should have been the end of it. He should have respected that and stopped. Instead, he hurt me and kept going. So yes, it is.
According to her, for a solid 10 minutes, he tried to force himself on her.
Right. So yes, it certainly is. It is heinous. It's disgusting. It is something that should not happen. And I think at the end of the day, there's that hashtag Me Too going around. Basically, women that are stepping up and not being not allowing themselves to be victims. And they're taking their voice, taking back their voice that they should have always had. I think that's great. You can get into the different parts of whatever else you want to say, politics and whatnot, but it's a good thing that they're at least finally being able to get that back. What Sano did is going to be investigated by Major League Baseball. Nothing really has come out since the beginning the end of December, beginning of January on this, so we haven't heard anything else. Once we do, we will obviously we'll let you all be aware of that, but really until that point, kind of just a waiting game to see what will happen. Obviously, we have the domestic violence and the child abuse, sexual assault policy from Major League Baseball. So if it does come back, which I think that will come back, this happened. Obviously, it's kind of a he said, she said until we hear if they had video surveillance, whatever it might be. I mean, it's an Apple store. I'm fairly certain Apple stores have a ton of things that you can find to watch and whatnot. So hopefully there's something there that kind of can help corroborate that. Or if it's unfounded, then vindicates him. And I'm not questioning her, but we have seen in the past people that get that. So it's good to have the facts come out so that everything is proven beyond reasonable doubt as what it is. And if he did commit this acts, then he deserves whatever punishment comes down from Major League Baseball. If there's nothing else you want to say, man, we can move on to Hall of Fame stuff, because I don't think there's a whole lot you want to say beyond that. I mean, we don't want to really.
No, like I said, I don't want to use our platform to start getting in. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously,
we can bash each other.
Obviously, it's an allegation and it needs to be investigated. And I'm glad that if this allegation turns out to be factual, I'm glad that she had the intestinal fortitude to come forward about it. I know as a member of the media, as a photographer, it can't be easy to come out and make an accusation against a very well-respected baseball player who's, had a couple of good seasons with the Minnesota Twins and who is well-liked by their fan base. It can't be easy to come out and make those allegations. So if these allegations are in fact truthful, and from everything I've read and everything I've seen, I have no reason to nothing. Right. There's nothing to indicate that she has a reason to lie about them. So if this is in fact the case, then I'm glad that she was that she was willing to come out and do this, because this is the sort of thing that needs to happen. Right.
And there is talk actually that he might be trade bait, that he actually might be trade bait for the Twins, and they might be looking to move him. Not sure if it's related, right. But there is at least been some question of that. But it's the most underreported crime in our society, and that needs to change. And right. So I'm glad that she was able to, or that she was willing to come out with these allegations, and I hope that baseball does their due diligence in the investigation and comes to a decision and finds whether this in fact happened or didn't happen. And if it did, then I hope a punishment is commensurate with the crime. And I hope it's judicious, unlike the Bryce Harper. And yes, exactly. I think that's well said. So let's go ahead and get into something a little more light, and I don't think it's going to be nearly as argument filled as it was last year. Of course, last year we went through everybody on the Hall of Fame ballot, and if you want to go back through, you're welcome to check out our Facebook page, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham. Of course, always at OO Left Field. It's our Twitter handle, and our shows are up there as well. And you can scroll through, and you can find all of our old shows, and you'll have stuff about the Hall of Fame. We're not going to go ahead and go back through every name on the Hall of Fame ballot. It will take forever, and granted, we've had the same arguments. We've already had this discussion with you guys, and the last thing we need to do is go over why one of us thinks the steroid guys should be in and why one thinks they don't. It's an argument that's happened before. It'll happen again throughout the course of our show. But this is not the day we want to do it. Okay, we discussed this, I think, last month, that the Veterans Committee did vote in Jack Morris and Alan Trammell. Morris, of course, the one of the best Game 7 pitching performances, along with John Smoltz. When they went head to head, and I believe it was '92 when the Twins beat the Braves in Game 7. I think it went extra innings. It was just a great performance there. And Alan Trammell, the longtime Tiger. But we want to take a look at the current ballot, players we think will get in. We will tell you who we think will get in this ballot, when it will be, who will be in this year. We have about a handful of names, and everything else, so we'll go through it real quick. Your returning 14 candidates are Trevor Hoffman, Vladimir Guerrero, Edgar Martinez, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Mike Mussina, Kurt Schilling, Manny Ramirez, Larry Walker, Fred McGriff, Jeff Kent, Gary Sheffield, Billy Wagner, and Sammy Sosa. That is in order of the percentage of votes they got highest down to lowest last year. Sosa being the lowest at 8.6, Hoffman being the highest at 74%. You need 75% for induction. This year on the ballot, I believe it is 19 names. Chipper Jones, Jim Tomei, Scott Rowland, Andrew Jones, Johan Santana, Johnny Damon, Carlos Zambrano, Jamie Moyer, Omar Vizquel, Chris Carpenter, Levon Hernandez, Orlando Hudson, Kevin Millwood, Kerry Wood, Carlos Lee, Aubrey Huff, guest of the show, Hideki Matsui, Jason Isringhausen, and Brad Lidge. Those names in no particular order. So, Chris, I think that when we look at the first 14 that we read, you and I are pretty much in agreement that Trevor Hoffman and Vlad Guerrero, two guys we thought should be in the Hall of Fame anyway and should have been in last year, will be two of the names that make it in this year. We think the only two returning names on the ballot to make it in this year.
Right. I don't think there's any question that Trevor Hoffman goes this year. 74% of the vote last year. He's only a point off of where he needs to be as far as making it into the Hall of Fame. I'm sure he makes up that 1% this year.
I actually don't think it's ever happened where someone's been that close and missed. I think that if history has shown us that he should make it in handily this outing.
And to be fair, Major League Baseball has already decided to immortalize Trevor Hoffman. The American League Reliever of the Year award is named after him. So to not have him in the Hall of Fame, the National League Reliever of the Year award is named after him. My bad. And to not have him in the Hall of Fame makes absolutely no sense. If baseball is going to name their Reliever of the Year award after a guy, chances are he's Hall of Fame worthy. Vladimir Guerrero, I mean, come on. He's Vlad Guerrero. The guy had a .318 lifetime batting average. That's ridiculous. He should have made it last year, in my opinion, but it was a strong class last year. It was a strong ballot last year. So,
and the thing is that the writers still hold in this high regard being a first ballot Hall of Famer, but at the end of the day, when you go into Cooperstown, the plaque doesn't tell you that. It shouldn't matter. It's the idea that there'll never be a unanimous. You're telling me that Griffey wasn't unanimous? I mean, there are guys that deserve to be unanimous.
Ken Griffey Jr. should have been a unanimous Hall of Fame selection. The fact that there is a baseball writer anywhere that did not put Ken Griffey Jr. on their ballots for that reason makes me sick.
And that is where I think you get the issue, and it's kind of why it's nice to see the way the NFL does it is, you have the list of people, and they slowly narrow it down, where here you have to make a decision of 10 men off of a list of 39. I mean, it's if that's what you're going to do, and we're getting into an age where we're going to have more and more guys retiring who have put up numbers that are just insane, then either extend it to where you can vote for 15 people, because what's going to happen is guys who should still be on the ballot aren't going to get votes because they're kind of that they're teetering on the edge. They're they're a tweener in what they do. The problem is then guys aren't going to give enough votes and they're going to fall off the ballot. So either allow the writers more time to get them in, or start doing it where we start to narrow it down to where, okay, you have 15 or 20 names and you can pick 10. You can pick you don't have to, but you can pick 10. That's where I think the Hall kind of is behind.
Right, exactly. As far as the rest of the guys on the returning ballot, you and I are at odds about some of these guys, but I think we're probably in agreement about guys like Manny Ramirez, Larry Walker. If they go, it's going to be a long time. There's going to have to be a lot of turnover. And for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, there's going to have to be a lot of turnover in writers, new age writers who don't mind the issues. But you and I have also discussed that we both hope that this is the year that Fred McGriff really starts to take off as far as votes. And I think that he should. Hopefully he's going to make up at least. I think that he should make up at least what Bonds and Clemens made up last year, which was almost 30%. of the vote.
I don't think
I don't think
it was that. I think it was 10 or 15.
I thought they were down in the 20s last year. I could be wrong.
I will look it up.
I thought they were way down. They made up a decent chunk.
The bigger issue that we're going to have at the end of the day with this is the fact that he's on his 9th year of eligibility and last year's his final year. That's what's really going to hurt him. No, last year Bonds was at 53.8 and Clemens was at I'm sorry, no, that was the year before. Yeah, I'm looking at okay, let me go to the year to 2016.
But I can make the first guys
10%. They came up 10%.
10%. That's
10%.
A decent jump.
It is.
I would like to see Fred McGriff make at least a 10% jump. I think Curt Schilling probably makes a 10% jump this year as well. If he can manage to keep his mouth shut and stay out of the news,
right,
and not say anything stupid, I think he makes probably a 5 or 10% leap. Curt Schilling's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
I think to you and me, Mike Mussina is the one that kind of has a scratch in our heads when you look at his numbers, and then you look at guys like you hear Chris Carpenter and you hear Adam Wainwright, like, man, those guys were aces of their staff. They were great, Cardinals pitchers, and then you realize that their numbers in comparison to Mike Mussina are infant.
Nothing. Yeah, they're nothing. So I would like to see him make up a huge chunk also, but I can make the first-year guys easy for all of us.
Yes.
There are 4 names on that list who are going into the Hall of Fame at some point, and the rest of them aren't. Those 4 names are Chipper Jones.
The first 2 you're going to read are what I believe to be the first ballot Hall of Fame guys out of this class.
Right. And you and I are in complete agreement on that those names are Chipper Jones
which is scary.
and Jim Thome. Right. Chipper Jones and Jim Thome are obvious first ballot Hall of Fame guys. They're going to go, and the other 2 names are Andrew Jones, another member of that incredible Braves squad, and Omar Vizquel, who had an excellent career as well. But Omar Vizquel's probably not going to go until probably 5 or 6 years on the ballot.
Offensive numbers are very much. I mean, they are indicative of a guy who was, a contact hitter. He was not a power guy, but I mean, defensively, he was a boss. I mean, there's really no way to put it. I mean, the guy won 13 Gold Gloves, only 2 All-Star games. Played for 24 years, for God's sakes.
Right. And he wasn't a power hitter. The guy only hit 80 home runs in his whole career.
Yeah, 11 Gold Gloves.
Right. But he had a 272 batting average, a 336 on base. He didn't slug a whole lot. He hit a lot of singles. But, hey, that kind of offensive production is important, right? You need guys who can do that. And you're never going to see an Ichiro with a slugging percentage of 500 or 400, right?
Here is the statistic as I look that I think kind of screams the most to me about what Vizquel was. He had 2,877 career hits. If you take those hits, divide them in half, that's 1,438 and a half. Right? I give you that number because just over 50% of the times that he reached base, he scored. He has 1,445 runs scored. So he's averaging just under 160 hits a year and 79 runs a year. You look at that, I mean, that is what, yes, it is not going to be these grand, man, he was slugging the ball. No. But when he got on base and he snagged 404 bases and got caught 167 times, he's able to move himself around the base path. He was smart. He knew how to run. And he put runs up on the board for his club.
And not just by crossing the plate, because I want to point another number out to you also. He hit 80 home runs in his career. which means he only put himself across the plate 80 times. But he had 951 RBI in his career, which means that out of the 2,877 hits that he got, nearly a third of those resulted in runs in the game. Nearly half of those resulted in him crossing the plate at some point.
And the scary thing is, he had 80 dingers, but he had 77 triples.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, a guy who struck out 1,087 times, but he walked 1,028. I mean, he was disciplined at the plate. He did his job, and he was a defensive juggernaut. I mean, if you hit it to him, he was going to eat it up. That's pretty much it. I mean, a career fielding percentage of 985 at second and short mainly. I mean, what else? What more do you need?
Second, third, short.
Yeah,
and then later in his career, third, left, and center.
Yeah, I mean,
or third, left, and right.
What more do you need? So yes, to me, he is a guy who, a 45.3 career WAR.
In my opinion, this is the best way I can sum up Omar Vizquel. When you look at a prospect, when you look at a guy coming out of an amateur level, right, into the amateur draft, you hear a lot of these old school scouts will look at a guy and tell you how many tools he's got. He's fast, he hits well, he gets on base, he plays good defense, right, and he has good baseball IQ, right? He's a five-tool guy, right? A lot of those five-tool guys get into Major League Baseball and they become hitters or they become great defenders, right? But they do something very well. Omar Vizquel...
Or if you're Mike Trout, you do both.
Right. Well, yeah. But Omar Vizquel spent his whole career being a five-tool guy. He was a fast, smart, solid-hitting, great defending baseball player. And I don't think that you can ask for more than that from a guy, from anybody. And I think that sort of discipline and ability and baseball intelligence deserves a spot in Cooperstown. Maybe not. He's not going to fit the role of a guy who gets the coveted first ballot title. I agree. Either is Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones will probably go his second or third year almost totally based on the fact that there are people in the BBWAA who don't want to make him a first ballot guy. Do I think he's going to get a significant amount of votes this year? Yeah, I do. He'll probably get 40 or 50% of the vote this year. But I don't think
what I hope is that Omar Vizquel doesn't come down to being like it was with Tim Raines. I hope he's not one of those guys who you're thinking, man, really? Like, you gotta wait 10 years and by the skin of your teeth make it in. That is what I hope doesn't happen.
Yep.
And I agree. I mean, I think when you look at that at the end of the day, yeah, Andrew Jones, another guy who, made his living off of, defense. I mean, he was, him in center field, it was kind of like it was with Trout. I mean, you waited, you wished somebody would just hit a bomb to center so that Jones could go track it down and rob it. And I get maybe I'm a bit of a victim of being a fan and watching them, as I grew up. But Andrew Jones is one of those guys who, like, man, this kid, he can flat out play. And it was the Jones boys. It was Chipper and him together. So yeah, man, I'm with it. Chipper and Tomei to me are clear-cut first balloters. And then Jones and Omar Vizquel, or Andrew Jones and Omar Vizquel, are the other two guys out of this class who I think make it. Chris Carpenter, I like him, but he's a long way away. Hideki Matsui didn't play that long, and we discussed this with Scott Rowland. I think when he retired a while back, he said, look, yeah, Rowland has been fantastic, but he's a guy who will have his jersey retired in Philadelphia. He'll be that guy. And that's where his Ring of Honor will be. And that's fine. He made a huge impact on that ball club. But as far as him going into Cooperstown to be immortalized there, I just don't think Scott Rowland is. I just don't think he's that guy. It's 50-50. Maybe he makes it near the tail end. I don't think he's a guy who's going to fall off the ballot first time. I think he'll get probably 25-35% of the vote and kind of work his way slowly but surely. But I don't. I think it'll be one of those things where it might be the 9th or 10th year before he finally has a chance at making it.
And let's talk quickly about Andrew Jones, because you want to talk about impressive numbers as well. And anybody who watched Andrew Jones plays knows that he was an impressive ball player. He was an impressive center fielder. He was, realistically, he was like the Andrew McCutcheon of his time when he was in his prime. He roamed center field, and just nothing got by him.
You're talking on Andrew Jones, right?
Andrew Jones, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He roamed center field, and nothing got by him. He was fast, he was smart, and he just gobbled everything up that came his way. And, right. A guy would come along in 8 or 10 years that looked a lot like that, named Andrew McCutcheon.
With 434 home runs to his credit, too.
Right. We're talking about a guy who got to the plate 3,000 fewer times than Omar Vizquel, 434 home runs, and also crossed the plate 1,200 times.
Yeah, 10,000.
And also put other people across the plate. And also put other people across the plate 1,289 times.
Right.
So, and he only had 1,900 hits. So 2/3 of the time that he got a hit, he was crossing the plate or putting somebody across the plate. So, Andrew Jones is one of those guys that I think is going to make it. I think there are enough old baseball writers out there who are going to say, well, he's not a first ballot guy.
Right. And that's fine. I mean, I think there are other guys that you can send your vote towards. But definitely, I think, and you look at this, but right now
I would implore all of those guys who think that Andrew Jones isn't a first ballot guy, and so they are not going to vote for him. Please use that slot for Fred McGriff.
Right. Or just give us your vote, and we'll vote for you. Give each of us your vote.
Or just give me your vote, and let us do it. We'll do it as a team.
I'm good.
Give us one ballot. We'll do it as a team.
Yeah, as long as I'm involved, you'll be fine. As long as I'm involved, then I know you can't screw it up. So that's important. Yeah, we're good. I like that.
Yeah. Get out of here.
So, guys, I mentioned this at the top of the show, and we'll discuss it real quick before we get ready to go. Last year, you might remember that I had a chance to go over to the Diamond Resort Invitational Golf Tournament in Orlando. It was a great time. Had a chance to talk with some amazing former athletes and a couple of celebs as well. Rob Riggle will be there. Hope to talk with him about his new movie coming out. I think it's called 12 Hours. Looks absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you've seen it, Battle, but it's going to be. Let me see if I can look it up. Make sure I got the. I'm sorry. It's called 12 Strong, and basically it is based on basically the first 12 guys to kind of go into theater after the 9/11 attacks, and kind of initiate the first attacks against Al Qaeda.
I have seen it. I have seen the. I saw the
trailer. Yeah, it comes out I think in 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean he is. Rick Riggle was a light colonel in the Marine Corps. So I'm hoping to talk about that. But guys like we talked to Tom Glavine last year, John Smoltz, Dan Plesac, and NB Network, a ton of guys. So they'll be there again. Looking forward to doing that. I wish you were out here doing it, man. It would be a blast to do it together. But if you guys happen to be in Orlando or be out there, just, hey, shoot me a tweet at Graham_OOLF and just say, hey, I'm out here. We'll be happy to hook up with you, say hello. If you guys happen to be out there, it'll be a fun time. It's going to be for a great cause. It's for Florida Hospital for Children. So, it's for a great cause anyway, and a bunch of good stuff. So looking forward to being out there for that. And we should be having some guest news on top of that coming up here in the next week or so, and we'll keep you guys updated on that.
I want to say one thing real quick about this 12 strong movie in Rob Riggle. This is, first of all, it's going to be a very rare, serious appearance from Rob Riggle.
Right.
I know he's going to have fun with this role, though, because he's actually playing the colonel that he served under in Afghanistan.
Yeah, he's playing his boss.
So he's going to have fun with this role. I know he is.
It makes you wonder. How much?
If you have a chance to talk
did you
to him.
research this? How much did you research this role? I just want to know. I just want to know. That's all.
I want to know if I would be interested to know if he went full method for this role. Like, did he call this guy as this guy? Because that's the only way to do it.
I'm picturing more method acting while you're, hey, I need to stay at your house to kind of get a real feel of this. So,
he shows up at the colonel's house and starts talking to his wife. What's for dinner tonight? Who are you? I'm your husband.
I'm him on screen.
No, you're not.
So yeah, it's going to be that'll be exciting. I think he actually plays an Army officer though, so I will ask him how it feels to be on the right side of the military branches, just to see what he thinks.
In the face.
What's that?
He's going to punch you in the face.
I doubt that, just because he's in a golf tournament, so he might use a putter or a 3-wood. I'm thinking more like one of his clubs, because
probably where.
Yeah. Well, I mean, putter would be like straight into the eye or like right down on the crown of the dome. But yeah, I'm figuring something like that. Maybe a sand wedge to the shin. Wow!
Sand wedge to the shin.
There you go.
Nobody ever wants to hear those words.
Yeah, no, nothing good ever comes from that. But yeah, man, it's gonna be fun. Hopefully, in the next year or so, you'll be out here. We'll be able to do that together, because it's a blast to go to. It's really neat to see these guys playing, and some of them, like Mark Mulder. Mark Mulder's a damn good golfer. He was a good pitcher. He's a fantastic golfer. So looking forward to that. Hope you guys, if you're out here, come out, say hello. Other than that, man, that's pretty much it. Hopefully, at least by the end of the week, we've got some more moves. Last year it was arbitration for Jake Arrieta and Bryce Harper. Hopefully we get something worthwhile to talk about coming up this week. It's been a quiet couple of weeks, but the important thing is, next time we come to you, we will be just about a month out from the beginning of spring training, which is going to be fantastic. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We hope you all had a fantastic Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year, all the good stuff. Hope your holidays were safe and excellent. I know for Chris, mine was a little under the weather, but ready to be back at it and start talking baseball. For everybody here at The Grueling Truth, for Chris Furry, Graham McGowan here. Thanks, guys. Enjoy. See you next week on Out of Left Field.